What's going on, guys? Just wanted to quickly jump on here before today's video and just mention, hey, we record this video on Wednesday. Of course, as it always happens in the content game, Aaron Rodgers signs on Thursday. So instead of recording a whole new video, we're just going to stick this one out there. Anytime we mention Mason Rudolph, guys, obviously we know now that Aaron Rodgers is the starting quarterback. But for the process of this exercise, we didn't put him on the tier list. So just know that for now. And anyways, enjoy the rest of the video. Welcome back to Forward Progress, presented by Fanduel. We are back for another video, and we are ranking all 32 NFL starting quarterbacks. I'm your host here, Jason Cooper, alongside Austin Mock and Fabian Sudner. And today, guys, pretty self-explanatory, going through all starters in the NFL, placing them on a tier list where we rank them. And before we start, let's kind of break down the tiers and discuss each tier. They're all pretty self-explanatory, but there's two I want to go a little bit more in depth on. The tiers are as follows. First, elite. Next, very good tier. Can take a good team to the Super Bowl tier. Can take a great team to the Super Bowl tier. Breakout season tier. Don't know yet tier. Not good / wash tier. And then not a starter tier. All these are pretty self-explanatory except for two. Can take a good team to the Super Bowl and can take a great team to the Super Bowl. I feel like those need a little bit more explaining. So when we were discussing this, Austin, this was your idea. Why don't you give us a little bit more background as to kind of what you mean and how those two tiers differ?
Yeah, I don't want to say it's simple because it is like a fine line. That's what we were struggling with this tier to do this. So like kind of a good team is maybe not like super well-rounded, but maybe the really good defense, really good offense. Obviously the quarterback can help the offensive side of things, but like a great team in my mind is like, hey, you need good weapons. You need a good offensive line. You also need a good defense. You're not really, I guess, like elevating the rest of your roster as much. So like that's how I kind of differentiated between the two. So yeah, I think that's where I landed on it. It's just one tiny step up to take a good team to the Super Bowl.
Of course, and it's always impossible to talk about quarterbacks without like referencing their situation around them, which is what we're going to be trying to do here, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I guess the big difference between those is just the situation around them. Can take a great team is a better situation than can take a good team. All right, let's dive into it. I mean, right off the hop, we're going to start with the not a starter list, and we're going to go through both of these tier lists. So Austin, you made one, and Suma, you made one as well. Both you guys had the same two players in the not a starter list in Justin Fields and Mason Rudolph. I mean, not really much to go on here, but Suma, you're a Jets fan, so I gotta get the Justin Fields take right now. You have him as not a starter. Is there any glimmer of hope for you this season, or are you just completely out on the Jets as a fan this year?
I'm pretty much out. I think there might be a path where the defense doesn't have a lot of injuries. They play like some nitty-gritty games where Justin Fields breaks out a few runs and they win like, I don't know, a few games with a score of like 20-17 or something. But overall, I think there is going to be like zero passing game. And without a passing game, it's very hard to win in today's NFL. And also like the one game could be decent on paper, but you are relying on a second year left tackle and a rookie right tackle to bookmark this line. So I don't really think there's a major path for success this year.
All right, it's going to be a tough season for the Jets fan. That wraps up that tier. Pretty quick, pretty simple. On to the next one, the not good / washed tier. And Austin, you came in, you sent me your tier list. Things seem pretty normal. You had Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson, Russell Wilson. And quickly before I jump in here, I know some people might say, we don't know if Flacco's the starter. We don't know if Richardson's the starter. What we're doing to determine the starter right now is just the odds on FanDuel. Whoever's the most favorite to be the starter for their team, that's who we're listing as the starter. So again, Austin, pretty simple here. Flacco, Richardson, Wilson. Suma, you were in the same vein and had similar guys in Wilson, Flacco, Richardson. But you had two more players in there that really caught my eye in Tua Tagovailoa and Sam Darnold. So putting those two guys in the not good / wash list, very bold. I love that. Suma, you gotta explain this to us. Why did you have those two guys there, other than the fact just to bother George?
Yes, that was my biggest reason. Hashtag team content. But also furthermore, I think that what Tua did in like very good circumstances where we had the first and second years of Mike McDaniels, Tyreek Hill playing at an absurd level, Jalen Waddle being pretty good. I think as soon as like anything falls down within the supporting cast, I don't really trust Tagovailoa to be a capable NFL quarterback anymore. So I think there were so many examples also in like the last 2 years where when like anything goes wrong, Hill is out, offensive line is missing Terran Armstead. I think like you can give that guy a lot of problems, and I just don't see how he can take like an, let's say, somewhat good Dolphins team with a average at best defense to the Super Bowl. So I put him in the good slash washed category.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't. I mean, the Tua stuff I don't disagree with. Sam Darnold, I think he still has a little bit more to give. Austin, I'm going to throw to you though. What's your take? What's your thoughts on those two guys being in the not good slash wash tier? If you had to pick one of those two guys from your tier list and move them down to that tier, who would it be and why?
Oh, these two probably created the biggest problem for me because I think we've only really seen them in like not perfect, but like good situations. More so Darnold we saw without the good situation. But I don't really believe in either of these guys, but I do believe that if they were on like a great team, then we could we could see them have success with like a great defense and a great all around offensive line, weapons and everything. If I had to throw one down in the not good washed, I'd probably go Tua because I think he has the lower ceiling. Darnold like has the stronger arm. Obviously, injury issues. Tua has those as well. But I do think like Darnold could probably do a little bit more with less than Tua. If I was a GM and I had to, draft one of these guys, I'd probably want Darnold. So I would probably be more okay with dropping them down there. If I had to rank the teams in the guys in the next tier, these two would have probably been the lowest one. So I don't disagree with Suma here.
All right, fair enough. And Suma, I kind of cut you off there. Sorry about that. You wanted to touch on Sam Darnold as well. I only let you go in on Tua.
No problem. It's only June. So my issue with Donald is that I think we can say that he played in a very, very good offense last year. Decent receiving group, top 5 tackle tandem, great play caller. And so arguably one of the best situations he could possibly be in or might be in the future. And the offense was like a fringe top 15-ish offense. So I just don't see where the ceiling is for him. And I would not be surprised when we're looking at this Seahawks offense that he's like the, 24th best quarterback or something next season.
I'm smirking because that's one of my sleeper teams, the Seattle Seahawks. Love Sam Darnold. Hopefully I'm right here and you're wrong, but we'll see. We will see. On to the next tier. You guys had 4 players in the don't know yet that were consensus, 1 player in the breakout season that was consensus, and then 2 other players that you guys had swapped between those two tiers. I feel like let's go through who you guys had consensus first. Tyler Shuck, Cam Ward, Michael Penix, and JJ McCarthy in the don't know yet tier for the both of you guys. And you also had Caleb Williams in the breakout tier. I feel like you got to talk about this young don't know yet tier alongside the breakout tier. I feel like they go hand in hand. Did I forget? Oh, and I missed Bo Nix. Sorry about that. And Bo Nix. So 5. The 2 you guys didn't have the same. Suma, you had Drake May in breakout tier, and you had Bryce Young in the don't know yet tier. While Austin, you had that flipped. You had Drake May in the don't know yet tier and Bryce Young in the breakout tier. So Austin, I'll go to you first. Tell us why you're high on Bryce Young this year and you put him in the breakout tier over a guy like May, who might also be primed for a breakout.
Yeah, it's just tough. I thought I was big on the Panthers last year, and I thought we were going to get the Bryce Young that we saw like in the second half of the year. I thought we were going to kind of get that right out of the gates. Obviously, that did not happen. But I've just seen more. Like I thought he was in a horrible situation year 1, so I'm like in my analysis of Bryce Young, like that roster was terrible. I don't really care. The like coaching staff, they fired Frank Reich in like week 3 or whatever it was. I think he's just in a much better situation. I think what we saw last year's more of what you would expect. It's kind of like that was year one for Bryce Young for me. Drake May, I like the upgrade in the coaching staff, and they boosted the offensive line and stuff. I need a little bit more. I know like we don't have a ton from Bryce Young either, but I like their offense and their weapons and situations and play caller a little bit better, where I think he's more primed for a breakout season, on top of it being his third year in the league. This isn't like I'm not out on Drake May or anything. It's just I need a little bit more, and I think I like Bryce Young's offensive situation better than Drake May's heading into 2025.
Before we get into the next part of the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Fanduel. It might be the offseason, but if you want to bet on the NFL and NFL futures, Fanduel is the place to go for that action. If you want to bet on awards markets, who's going to win the Super Bowl, to win each division, heck, win totals that you can parlay together, and so much more, you can do it over on Fanduel. Just visit fanduel.com/forward progress, now America's #1 sportsbook. That's fanduel.com/forward progress.
I think that's absolutely fair to agree. Suma, your thoughts, I guess, on Bryce Young potentially having a breakout season, then let us know why you like Drake May.
The more I think about it, the more I would probably put Young in the breakout tier, but also keep May there. I think Austin made a lot of good arguments. I think that the Panthers improved their offense. And that was my reasoning why I kept him there, is that I just needed like a bigger sample size, maybe like 2 or 3 games more last season to make me more confident, but I can absolutely see him having a very decent season. The reason I put May there is that I'm not a tape guy, not a quarterback guru or something, but I don't know. I watched those Patriots games and I just thought that I saw something there. Like, I don't think he looked as bad as those production stats looked and those results looked. I mean, awful coaching staff, awful offensive line, bad receiving. And I actually thought that Drake May looked pretty solid. Like, man, I don't know. I think if you give him like better tackle play, they swap both positions. Stephon Diggs, I'm not sure how healthy and how not rushed he's going to be, but I think Drake May really looked the part in a very bad supporting cast, and I can easily see him having a much better season, second year bump, and would not be surprised if we saw like better stats than, I don't know, public/media is suggesting right now.
Yeah, fair enough. High on May here. Austin, do you want to jump in on that, or?
Yeah, just the interesting thing, just the hard part about doing this is, like, I think May obviously has the higher ceiling than Bryce Young. Going into this, like, I have more concerns about, like, and I guess more of like uncertainty in what the offense is going to look like. Do they have enough receiving weapons to like count him as a breakout, or at least like what most people would think is a breakout? I think he'll definitely be better. It's just, I think Bryce Young's like, that setup is better for him to like be seen as a breakout player. Whereas the Patriots offense might be, one more year in Vrabel, that coaching staff system and rebooting, because there was not a lot of talent on that offense last year. So maybe there will be similar to what Bryce Young kind of had the second half of the year, but I just think the Panthers offense is there. But I'd rather have Drake May in the long term. So this is like the hard 1 year ranking tier conundrum here that we have.
Yeah, no, now everyone's going to see this list on Twitter and they're going to hold you to it and say, look, you had Bryce Young ahead of Drake May. So that's the fun part about these videos. Also, can't wait till next year when we do this video and Caleb Williams is bumped up to the very good / elite tier. Going to be a ton of fun. Speaking of the very good / elite tier, I'm going to go out of order here, and I didn't really mention this to you guys, but I feel like it just makes sense. I feel like the audience kind of already knows who the elite quarterbacks are, so saving those guys to the last, I feel like that's a little bit boring. So we're going to lump the elite and the very good tier together. There was only one difference in your rankings there. You guys both shared the same 3 elite quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. For the very good tier, Suma, you had Daniels, Herbert, Stafford, and Burrow. Austin, you had Herbert outside of this tier. You had Daniels outside of this tier. And checking my notes right now, you had Jalen Hurts inside of this tier instead of those 2 guys. So Tell us a little bit about the Hurts over Stafford and Herbert, and then we'll talk about the rest of the guys after.
Yeah, I struggled with Hurts. I knew this was going to be the hot take, if you will. I don't love him as a passer. I think he has some like decision making issues that don't put him. I don't think he's like horrible in that sense, but he does everything else so well for them. And maybe if like the tush push would have got banned, we can take this off of there. But there's such a level of like he's made two Super Bowls in the last three, won. I, like I understand that the supporting cast and everything is great, but I personally don't know, like I don't know, like if you put some guys lower on the list here in that offense, are they as good? Like I think there's a hard argument for a lot of them. But yeah, I this is controversial. I have a conversation like weekly last year with someone about Hurts, and they were not a believer, and I was just like, he's like it's because of his throwing that he's just not quite there, but I think his legs make up for it enough. If he wasn't in a perfect situation, does it look better? Maybe, but I also think that's true for a lot of these guys. So he got the bump. I can't ignore the 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and he's just the steady. When he's been healthy, he's been really, really good in 2 out of the last 3 years. So I'll defend him in the very good until this year when it all falls apart for Philly.
All right, Suma, you had Daniels and Herbert in. That was the two that were kind of different from Austin. Do you want to take any of those back? You're still comfortable with those? Tell us a little bit about it.
I actually swapped Daniels out last minute, but you probably ignored my message.
It's June. It's June.
It's June. No, it's okay. So Jane Daniels was like super tough for me because one of the best rookie seasons statistically, eye test wise, I can remember, but I just didn't think that last minute I thought that the sample size maybe warrants putting him in the third tier and maybe a little bit more wait and see before I bump him back into the second tier.
All right, I'll move him down here for you.
He was tough for me too. Like he was close to being very good, but sample size being one. The other thing was like so many high leverage plays went their way last year.
Yes.
Like you had the Hail Mary, you had the 87 or whatever yard touchdown pass against the Cowboys. There were like 2 other ones in the final 2 minutes that were like 40-yard or more touchdowns. If that doesn't like, I think I did some analysis with this later. Like if you strip him back, it was like his EPA per play was like closer to league average if you take away those plays. I'm not saying that's fair, but yes. I did think that didn't allow me to put him in that tier. I thought about it, but I couldn't. Yeah. He couldn't get over the hump.
That's very fair. And like again, we've only seen 17 games, or I guess 19 games out of him at the pro level. Anyways, at the pro level, so sample size is still relatively small, but I wonder if this could be, listen, obviously Mahomes does great things. Like maybe if that's a similar situation where like this elite quarterbacks can eventually just create good things and good things happen to good players. Maybe that's the situation. Again, we'll need some more time to see that. Before we head out of the elite and very good tier, between Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, those are the guys in the elite tier. Stafford and Burrow in the very good tier. Give me 2 players who you think are most likely to move back a tier. Not that they're going to, but if you had to pick 2 to move back. I was going to say 1, but Stafford's too easy. He's too old, okay? So, Suma, I'm going to start you off with this one. Unless you need some more time, and then I'll throw to Austin, because, again, it is June. Who would you take as their 2 that could potentially take a step out of their tier and move down?
So, just out of the first 2 tiers, correct?
Yes, out of the first 2 tiers.
Okay, so I would say probably Lamar Jackson. And I would. So Stafford is not allowed, correct? So
no, you can say Stafford. I was gonna say 1, but I feel like both you guys would have said Stafford if I said 1. So
yeah, I mean, yes. It's like very likely, or let's say it's more likely that the age curve will hit Stafford at some point. So I think probabilistically speaking, I would probably fade the potential age curve of Matt Stafford.
Okay, so Lamar Jackson and Stafford to potentially, maybe, not for sure. If you just had to pick one of the 6, take a step back. Austin, for you, between your guys who you have listed, who do you have?
It's probably easy Stafford and Hurts. I know that's the
Okay.
boring answer, but if I had to pick one of the other 4, because it's a little like unfair or easier, I'll go Burrow, just because it's like I don't think going up is easy, and like if he's likely to move, he's had injury issues. I'll go him just to like throw in someone that's not like mine were easy, so I didn't have a difficult answer there. So
All right, all good. Just wanted to get those clips for in June for midseason, so we can bring that up and bring that tape up. But anyways, let's move on to the next tier. Let's go back down to the bottom. We're gonna go to the can take a great team to the Super Bowl tier. Sumo, we'll start with you. In your tier, you had Geno Smith, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, and Trevor Lawrence. Austin, we'll get to yours in a sec, but one that sticks out to me here is CJ Stroud. I feel like he is the odd one out in this grouping, and I think it's fair to give him this after his last season. Suma, give us a little explanation as to why you put Stroud here.
I will say, I think that Stroud overall has been a little bit overhyped, overrated, and I personally think that a lot of that came after those highlight reels in his rookie season. And we all remember that playoff game against the Browns where they dropped like 40 points or something. But I think overall, if you look at the full sample, like statistically, he's like basically Trevor Lawrence over the last 2 seasons. And I mean, he had like Bobby Slovic. Many people criticized Bobby Slovic, O-line injuries, receiver injuries. But while playing in those circumstances, I think Stroud was like horrible, like really, really horrible. Some very bad games. I remember that game against the Jets, against the Ravens on prime time. And I just think that if you want to be in these upper tiers, I would like to see more in these bad circumstances. Like, just don't play like a bottom 5 quarterback or something. And overall, just statistically, I just don't think that he really has that great of a profile over 2 years. Like I said, like it's basically Trevor Lawrence, and I think most people think that Stroud is like easily better than Trevor Lawrence, but stats just don't paint the picture, I would guess.
All right, that's fair, and I think I agree with everything that you say there in terms of CJ Stroud. I think the biggest thing that you mentioned though is like how he played in spite of the talent around him and the injuries. He still had Nico Collins for quite a bit, but yeah, he had tons of injuries. But you still would have liked to see more. Every team deals with injuries. Every player has every quarterback has someone on their offensive line hurt at some point throughout the year. Some guys lose their best receiver. That stuff happens. So I think that's some fair criticism there for CJ Stroud. Austin, let's move to you. For your tier, we talked about it already. You had Tua and Darnold in there. You also had Murray, Geno, Jordan Love, and Baker Mayfield, which were 2 that kind of went astray from what Suma put in his tier. You talked about the 2 guys you would move down in Darnold and Tua if you had to, because they were. I guess we're not ranking them per se, but you mentioned that these guys were the bottom end of this tier. Who are the top end? Is it Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love? Are those the 2 guys who you had trouble with kind of deciding between can take a good team versus can take a great team?
Yeah, it wasn't so much this tier going up that I struggled with. I think it was the other tier going down, to be honest with you. But like I just seen like Mayfield, I don't know if he's like really been. I think he's been on good teams, and we haven't seen. I don't think they've ever been like a Super Bowl contender. So I can't put him in that tier if he's already, we've had enough data of him. I think Geno Smith. I think the teams in Seattle were pretty solid as well. Like you needed to show more to get into the good tier for me. So like Love's probably the one because like their defense is kind of lacked off. They haven't had like they got that plethora of wide receiver 2s up there in Green Bay. So like maybe he would be the one that I would be pushing there. Murray's kind of, he might be a surprise for some people, but it's the same thing. Like we have enough data where it's just like, when is it going to happen for me? So I think it's like these guys fit firmly for me into that. Like they haven't really been on a great team, but they've been on some good teams, and they haven't really been Super Bowl contenders. So I can't throw them up in that tier just yet.
All right, fair enough. Let's round it out here and finish off this tier list with the teams that can take a good, or the players that can take a good team to the Super Bowl. Austin, we're going to start with you, and you had Goff, Lawrence, Herbert, Purdy, Stroud, Prescott, and Jaden Daniels, if I have that correct. Yes, I have that correct. All right, this question's not for you, Austin. This one's going to be for Suma. Suma, we finished off this tier list for Austin here. What are your thoughts? Is there anything that sticks out to you in terms of guys you feel like shouldn't be somewhere, or you agree with some convictions that Austin have with maybe a guy who you feel like is in just the right spot, but other people might not agree? What is the biggest thing that sticks out to you from this tier list, from Austin's tier list?
I think we are overall pretty similar, just like tiny differences. I would probably disagree the most with Jalen Hurts in that second tier. Other than that, I don't think we have like too many disagreements.
Okay, I like that. You're always
Trashing
you're-
a Super Bowl winning quarterback. No one else on that team was good.
Let's round it off here and finish it off. Suma, you had of course Jane Daniels, as we know, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and the most interesting one to me was Baker Mayfield in here. And Austin, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I feel like this one's a layup with Baker Mayfield. But who do you have the most, let's say, pushback with in terms of these rankings? Where do you disagree with Suma on the most?
Yeah, I think again it's pretty difficult. I'll go to avoid the like Love and Mayfield, since I just talked about them. I'll go Herbert with very good, to touch on. We haven't talked about it. I think he's controversial. I think I just like I feel like it's more of like the tools are all there, and like the highs are really, really good. And like, it's just the Chargers, before Harbaugh got there, like they were just like kind of always a mess. It was just hard for me to put him in the very good. I just needed a little bit more. And like, I wonder, there's obviously some playoff performances haven't been good. And he's left me a little bit to be desired to get into that very good thing. I think he's one of those guys that like very easily is on the fringe there. But that's one that like I have a hard time. It's tough for me to put him into the like top 6, though it gets really murky after like the top 4. So it's difficult. But we didn't spoken about Herbert, so I'll touch on him.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's funny that just seeing Herbert and Stafford beside each other, I feel like Herbert might have a career that ends up similar to Matt Stafford, because it feels like if you have Herbert in that tier below very good, when's he ever really going to have the opportunity to break out of that tier list with the current coaching staff around him? They're not letting him fly. They run the ball way too much to let him fly almost. So it might be hard for him to break out into that next year. Who knows? Jeff, cover your ears for this, but maybe it's going to take Herbert switching teams to finally realize and become that quarterback that he is destined to be. But that wraps it up for us here today. I'm going to flash those tier lists one more time. We have Suma's tier list on the screen, and we're going to switch over. We have Austin's tier list on the screen. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know where we went wrong, where we went right, what you guys would have done differently. You can do all that by commenting in the comment section down below. And if you made it this far and you like this content, do us a favor, smash that like button. It goes a long way in the algorithm. And then finally, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, because we've got tons of more football content coming your way. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.